Alright, we're going to be moving to map 2 now. So, I think there's an interesting aspect here, especially on like these types of maps where XL2 really has the freedom to run Widowmaker if they want, and Mayhem can't really match with the players that they have. They'll just run like a super suboptimal team comp, if that. So, I really like this because they probably predict that Za is going to be playing Pharah into this. They end up having like a really weird comp where it's like based off Pharah, but they play it really weird and really strange. So we'll play this out, but I think there's just an interesting matchup here where they can play the Widowmaker to counter basically them not having a Widowmaker and then them also running Pharah. Also, XL2 is playing like full zone control comp, so Flower was just straight baiting. He was playing up here, pressuring inside the choke with Widow shots, and then he knows as soon as they're coming, they have a really slow comp, so he's able to rotate back here to blue car and then actually bait the rest of the team in. Something that this comp running Mercy and Moira does is it has a ton of healing. So if you're actually able to get into the point and have pressure, you'll be able to, if you play it correctly, you force and clear the high ground and any area over here. So basically you clear all this area inside here, and then you have control of the point. So you'll have control of the point and you'll have all your members playing in like this area, and you'll be able to sustain as the enemy team comes in from this side, and so they'll just be forcing into you. But because you will have more healing, a lot of times you'll be able to output more and just stay alive in the fight. But the way they play that, they don't end up clearing the monkey and the diva, who end up both sitting over here just waiting for them to push into the point. And we can see basically Midnight and Clone Man basically play to counter the Mercy here. They get Mercy to like 50 HP, and then Midnight just keeps Paintbrush low by keep tagging him with the just regular basic attacks, auto attacks, primary fire, whatever you want to call it. And then XL2 has the freedom to now walk in, now that they've lost a lot of the sustain on Mayhem's side, to just have Flower walk in with just permanent Mercy pocket on him and just take shots. And you can see they're trying to retake. They swapped to Genji now, though. So this comp's going to play a little bit differently of how they take space. They can't just have the Mercy sit up in the air with the Genji. But Paintbrush keeps getting countered here. I really would have liked for him to swap to Lucio and play aggressively as a unit, but it's because basically XL2's comp is playing aggressively on here on the high ground, but without the Mercy. They're just going for quick, short, bursty fights. And then Adam is constantly sitting with Flower, making sure Flower is safe and pocketed at all times. And so, whenever they're doing this, like the tanks have weak healing on the high ground, and so they don't have a lot of pressure on them. So, you look to have the sustained fight or a quick fight appear on the high ground and force the tanks back to jump to the choke to get Mercy healing, and that's when you get control of the point. But they don't seem to be prioritizing that, and they keep splitting their resources, which ends up putting them in this like really bad situation over and over again. So they swap again, one of their supports. On Mayhem side. So now they have more on Zen. So they do have somewhat mirror comps. So they survived this Riptire, and they need to look to push in now as a unit. Take the top high ground to give paint room. I don't know where people keep going. I think they don't have people on the same page of like what they're talking about, because they keep having one person go in before anyone else and then get picked off. So Moopy goes in and he just gets taken out, and like the Valk basically gets wasted because everyone else just ends up running. Now that Flower has all the room in the world, he just walks up and just takes shots on all these people trying to retreat. Flower is like playing like super cocky right here, playing on point. Midnight's having to protect him. I think they finally understand, Mayhem understands what they need to do. They need to quit doing what they were doing with sending one person just randomly, but like actually commit to diving together. Have the Tracer flank and then have everyone just jump together. Mikey A actually creates a ton of space right here. I would have liked for Avadim to pocketed Goliath rather than go for the res, because it was basically just a bait. Like once he'd stuck the Widow, you just res the Widow and then he's going to focus Goliath because he knows that the Mercy healing's not going to be there, but they gave up a lot of ground. Like I think XL2 was just playing too passively right there. All the other pushes, they had the tanks playing forward, and I know you understand like they're gonna have ults soon, but like you still have to play with that same aggression if it's working. Crims just walks too far forward there, and they just clean him. XL2 does like a really good job of zoning here, just like constant zone control with this Widow and Junk. And I mean, it's not that too surprising. Like this is like one of the hardest pressure comps where you can just sit here and apply long range pressure on the other team, and it's really hard for them to get anywhere. Junks plays main, spams main. Widow can play back here, take shots at main, and cover the back end of the point as well. Mayhem's just generally confused here. I don't know exactly what they want to do. I think they're just getting staggered at this point and are just generally tilted because XL2 is just doing such a good job of holding their sight lines and applying spam. Clement dies right here, but they traded 2 kills. I think they definitely had the room. With how much spam that they have, Midnight can just walk up in Matrix and Adam could have gotten a free res right there. I think that definitely could have been punished by a better team. Like seeing this, they'll punish this in the future. They totally had freedom to res there. Oh, this is just watching. There's nothing really to pause. This team is just falling apart at this point. I really, really wanted Mayhem to play Lucio way sooner. Play Lucio and actually just speed into the other team. It's just way too slow, and they're trying to go for these weird flanks, and they just aren't working. Okay. It's not loading. Try changing the quality. There we go. Okay. Alright, so obviously Mangachu likes to play Pharah, but I think this also creates another interesting matchup where Mayhem either mind games and like tries to match Pharah's and then tries to like play like super aggro into Mangachu with like the Pharah v Pharah, and then Mangachu also knows that they don't really have a chance of running Widowmakers, so he has a lot of freedom to play aggressively here with his Pharah, and I think this is a good pick, as well as having Flower on McCree. You just comfort pick here and you pocket him on the high ground. I think it's really good. Now we can see exactly what Mayhem should have done on their offense, which is whenever the Winston is playing over here with the Tracer, this is like a normal default, you force them back on the right high ground, then this Winston is now out of position. He basically has to get value from this initial pressure right here, but you can see XL2 is playing it so slowly, they just pressure him, land shots on him, he has to jump back to his healing, and he has to just jump through the enemy team. Flower's played in the high ground, Mangachu's stuffing here in the choke. This is good. I think Moopy does like a good job actually flanking and getting on top of this McCree, but I mean there's not a lot that can happen here. They have like such good control of the point with everyone they want on high ground, their tanks in optimal positions. It's really hard to push people out of that. Let's just clean up kills at that point, and then there's the meme swap here. I need to highlight something. This thing right here. It's pretty meme. I don't think there's any reason why you play this comp, to be honest. It is really, really meme. Yeah, like there's not much to talk about here. Like it's meme Torbjorn comp. He goes to fucking just start hammering people. It's pretty good. Okay, well, there was not a lot to learn from that point, although the first point was a little bit more interesting because you got to see Mayhem really struggle with taking the high ground and forcing the tanks back, and then XL2, they played over top the Mega and really just forced the tanks, forced the Winston out, and like as soon as you've done that, then like the pressure is pretty much gone on the high ground, and your McCree, Solage, or whoever's playing the high ground has freedom to walk out and actually just play aggro. Once they had forced him out and killed him, there's really not a lot they could have done, so...